on the agenda is going to be the police department. We have Chief Guido here for interrogation. And first, I think we should, Ashley, if you would call the
Hey,
roll
what's
of
up?
the council is present.
Did you?
Ashley, yeah, would you want to call the roll of the council is present?
Go to the, are you all, did you click the link that's on the agenda?
Pardon me? Yeah, I mean,
Session 2, scroll down to on the agenda to Tuesday, June 16th.
I get it, yeah.
It's right on the agenda.
No, what I was saying was, would you call the roll of the council is present at this meeting?
Council Powers,
Yes,
would you like me to call the roll from Clerk Milnick?
yeah, please do that, Mr.
Oh,
President.
sorry,
Oh,
guys, I'm here.
There
Okay,
you go, Clerk.
Excuse me, roll call of the Ways and Means Committee. Counselor Jadino,
Here. Here.
Counselor Jadino is here. Counselor McKenna,
Here.
here. Counselor Morabito is absent. Counselor Visconti, he's trying to log in right now. Let me just see if he's in the attendees list. Counselor Visconti is present. Counselor Zambuto. Counselor Zambuto was absent, and Chairman Powers.
here.
Excuse me, and also Counselor Keefe, ex officio.
Here,
And also Council Sereno, I believe is here.
Counselor Keefe is here as well.
Okay,
First department
okay. First item on the agenda,
is for the police department.
section 2, page 82. This is for the police department, and the chief is right here. Is there any questions from any councilors? Who wants to be recognized first? Ashley,
Yes, John.
who wants to be recognized first?
John, do you want a quick synopsis?
All right, give us that. Yeah, then we'll go from the questioning after that.
Most of the budget, as you know, is salaries. This was a raise kicks in July 1st from the last negotiated raises. So that's most of the increase in the salary account. We had to eliminate one officer. I worked with the auditor. I wouldn't have been able to get him in the academy this year anyway. We presently have 4 officers attending the academy. They started June 1st, and 2 more slated to go in August. You'll see some cuts to the expense accounts. We called through the accounts and looked where we could make some savings. And the gas and oil is fluid because we've been doing the gas and oil for the fire, the city yard, elder affairs, water and sewer, but they transfer money in when we run low. So there's no surprises here. Everything's pretty much the same as every year. And that's about it. This will be my last budget. And I just wanted to leave everything in order before I leave.
Thank you, Chief. Chief, any increases in the budget are strictly contractual, am I correct?
On the salary side, yes. We
Okay.
eliminated 2 civilian positions, a part-time and 1 position that we never were able to fill, the community engagement person. So down the road, we hope to get a grant for that position. So in the meantime, that's been eliminated from the budget.
Now, with the four officers who are currently coming on board very soon, and the other 2 in the academy, what will this bring our complement up to?
I believe 106.
106.
We accounted for retirement, myself, 1 officer going out on disability, possibly another retirement. So we tried to backfill the position so we wouldn't run short, because it takes a year to get a person from the start of the academy to be able to go in the police car.
Okay, so, any counselors have any questions with regard to the salary schedule and or the expense schedule?
I do.
Is that Counselor Visconti?
It is. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Counselor, go ahead.
All right. Chief, thanks for being here today. And I just have one question in one of the line items. I noticed that the training line item has been reduced. You know, you think that during
Well,
the time.
Council, there's two different trainings. There's one
Well,
on the salary side, and there's one, this training to hire people to train.
Okay,
We lowered this line item and raised the training in the employee side.
I haven't
so
heard.
you okay, all right, my question.
It
Which
was
is-
backwards.
Okay, great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Just the way I wanted it. Yeah, I would rather see it, I should say.
No, they didn't. Any other counselors wishing to speak? Hello? Any other counselors wishing to speak?
Powers?
Council Sereno has his hand up.
Counselor Sereno, go ahead.
I'll defer to Counselor Janino first because she's a member of the committee. I can go after Counselor Janino.
Okay, that's fine. Counselor Janino.
Thank you, Ricky, and thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be very brief. Chief, it's a lean budget, and working with what you have. I'm sad to see that this will be your last budget, because you've been preparing them long before you were chief. But thank you for everything that you do, and it's very, very lean. I don't see anything we could add or change or do. I wish we could, support it a little more to get some more people on board.
Thank you. It's gonna be very, very difficult to hire officers going in the future with everything going on.
Okay. Yep. Friday'd be good, okay? Thank you, yep. Yep. No, please do that, because I'm in a meeting right
Mr. President, Mr. Chairman, can I have a quick point of information
now. Bye-bye.
for the group?
Just take it, Jess, because he's on the phone.
Councilor Powers, I just got off the phone with the clerk. Ashley's having some connectivity issues, so she's going to be relocating, and I'll be taking over for her in the meantime to help with facilitating. So, councilors, if you raise your hands, John, I'll assist you with getting things squared away for a few minutes until Ashley logs back.
Yep. I think Council Sereno had some questions. Am I correct?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councilor Sereno.
Chief, congratulations on your last budget. Going through it, I think, given the economic situation we find ourselves in, it's actually not as bad as it could be. Just a quick question. I was looking at the rentals line item, and I saw a little bit of an increase from 27.6 to 30. Quick question on the Shirley Ave substation. Has that been officially opened and staffed, or is it staffed?
It's opened. We were getting ready to have a big ceremony, but the pandemic came. So officers use it here and there. And the goal is to get it up and running fully for the summer. That'll be the new chief's decision, but the increase was just for a moderate increase that was written into the lease agreements for the rent.
Okay, that's fine. And then I noticed under new equipment for new cruisers, I know we're in a tough year and we weren't able to facilitate that. Is that going to be a major issue? Are the cruisers okay for the most part, or?
No, council, actually, you did buy us a new cruiser out of the capital outlay.
Okay,
And I'll be sending Rich a transfer from the detail account for the money we receive for cruises on details to
That's
buy a
great to
second
hear.
cruiser. I'll try to prepare that for maybe Monday night, I'll send it up as a late communication. Transfer from the detail account to the new equipment account, about 34,000. And then we'll use some toll monies to supplement the rest, and we'll buy a second cruiser. So we
That's
should be
great.
good for this year.
Sounds good. Thank you, Chief. And Chief, to you and the men and women of your department, thank you for all you guys are doing to keep us safe. I know it's a tough time to be, a police officer, but you have my support 100%. You guys are doing a great job.
And I just, for the record, I want everyone to know that I'm not leaving because of the pandemic or what's going on in the world right now, but I had always planned to be retiring and spend time with my grandkids. So the situation didn't run me out the door. I actually feel bad leaving in the middle of all this. But I'm around if anyone needs my assistance. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
And any other councilors wishing to speak?
Councilor Zambudo has his hand raised, Mr. Chairman.
Council Zambudo.
Tony, you're on mute.
So I said I'm not sure whether I'm using the electronic hand up or the hand up or whatever, but anyways.
I can't see the hand up if you are because my screen does not have that.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Jen.
Chief, what
Yeah.
number budget is this of yours?
I don't know, at least 20.
At least 20. What are they have you trained somebody to handle this budget?
It's not that simple.
I know that.
The
I'm
auditor will
kinda
be there to assist the new chief.
I'm kind of half joking, but I know how difficult it is, and I know that you've been doing it probably as long as I've been on the council, and that's a long time. So I'm worried, but
I'm
we're gonna
sure,
miss you, and I know. Go ahead.
I'm sure things will go along fine. The template's in place. It's just a matter of backfilling in the numbers. And Assunta and Rich do a great job sending all the salary information, and then we just review it and make some minor adjustments. So I want to give hats off to the auditing department for all the help they give to the departments.
Well, that's great. That's great.
You
That
owe me,
makes
Rick.
me
You
feel.
got it, you got it, chief.
And let
I
me
left
say,
you out last year.
and let me say, Chief, that I never had any doubt that you were leaving because of the pandemic. I know where your heart is, and I know, like you said, you're probably a little disappointed that this timing is now. But I wish you all the best with your grandkids, and you've certainly given many wonderful years to the city of Revere, and we're grateful for it. So best of luck to you.
Thank you.
Any other councilors? Any other councilors?
Anyone, Councilor Powers?
I said any other councilors? Wanted to speak.
You good?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
John.
Okay,
Everyone's
I just have one comment. I've been looking over the budget. And other than the salary increases, which, as we all know, are contractual, the only increase in the operating expenses, other than salaries, is $1,400 over last year. And that's, and I don't know if you can see that, Chief, but to me, that's a plus. That's shows that this is a very tight budget. And the mayor has done a lot of thinking and planning on this budget. And when I see a department that has an $11 million budget, and there's only a $1,400 increase, that looks pretty good to me. Thank you, Chief, for your work also.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Chief.
Okay, the next item we're going to go to is the Revere Fire Department.
Council Powers,
Yes.
can we just go over the rec budget real quick? Because I have a 4 o'clock appointment. It's basically, we had a board meeting the other day. The audit is part of the board. He represents the mayor. We voted to cut the budget 100,000 because we feel there'll be surplus. I've been the treasurer for the past year. I went through the whole budget. There's no surprises. Same thing, mostly contractual. We're hoping for an increase in the E911 assessment that backfills the cost of the wreck. And we're also hoping to bring on another city in the near term, which should help lower our assessment a little. So it's pretty much straightforward from last year, but if there was any quick questions, and I'm sure Chief Bright, who's on the board with me, could answer any questions also. And Rich Viscay, between the three of us, we should be able to answer any questions.
No. Any increases in that budget? Those were all contractual also?
Salary, yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I can see that.
We're actually going to end this year with a surplus. We factored that into the new budget.
Well, that's good news. All right, that's fine.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you for your.
Thanks, Chief. Thanks, Chief.
Stay
Thank
safe.
you. Thank you for your service to the city of Revere.
You're welcome.
We're going to go to the fire department right now.
Good afternoon, councilors.
Good
Good
afternoon.
afternoon.
Chief.
Okay. We're going to page, section 2, page 86. Has everyone got that?
Yeah.
Okay. Keith, do you want to give us a little summation of your department, what's going on there?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Like the police budget, most of our budget is absorbed in salaries. The increases were pertaining to the 3% raises that take effect July 1st. All the other non-salaried accounts, as you can see, going down the line, there were some cuts made. So it's a very lean budget. All in all, I mean, given the circumstances we're under right now with Corona and everything, we're going to work our way through it. And we just had 5 firefighters start here today on 4 of them off a grant we got this year. So that helped matters. We got them in right under the, just in time, really. So that's helpful because we just had one fire captain come in who'll be retiring that I wasn't expecting, and we did have one firefighter retire in April that we weren't expecting. So, we're trying to keep our manpower intact. But as you can see from the budget, like I said, it's pretty lean. And I'm open to any questions.
What is our total complement right now?
Right now, we're budgeted, we're budgeted for 110
110.
for 21.
Yeah. Okay. Now, what do you, obviously the city council and to the gratitude to them from the citizens for approving the bond authorization for the fire station down the Point of Pines.
Yep.
And I know that'll be coming along very soon. And there's been some questions raised about our ability to fund the 12 groups that will be necessary to operate that station. And my feeling is that the money's coming from a minimum of 3 new hotels that'll be up and running at that time when that is completed. How do you feel about that, Chief? Do you think we'll be able to meet those?
I do, Mr. Chairman. I think the Corona obviously, knocked us back a little bit. I think things are going extremely well, and we're going in a great direction on the fire department. I know all city departments were kind of making up for lost ground over the years. But I feel right now, we haven't browned up apparatus out in the past couple of years because of manpower situations. Our apparatus are running full complement right now on occasion, not always with 4 firefighters, but a minimum of 3, sometimes 4. And I'm confident that we start demoing and building that station out this year. That's my plan. That we will be able to open that station in 2 years' time, and we will have the manpower to do it.
That's my feeling also, and
Absolutely.
I want to once again thank you for your valuable knowledge and expertise in the operation of the fire department. I don't think people understand fully the number of calls that go into that station on a daily basis. Any to the department on a daily basis, and it's just overwhelming. And I know you have a very difficult job on your hands, and I know this budget again your budget is part of the total budget is again very lean. A lot of thought has been put into it, and I want to compliment everyone involved, and including Mr. Viscay, who is Chief Financial Officer. Are there any councilors that have any questions for Chief Wright? Yes, hello?
Mr. Chairman,
Councilor
Louis
McKenna?
McKenna,
Yep,
I would just like to say, Chief Wright, your department is wonderful, one of the best I feel in Massachusetts. Thank you for everything that you do, your dedication to the city and all your firefighters. Thank you very much. I know you work very, very hard to keep this city safe. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Council.
Welcome.
are there any other councilors that have questions for the chief? Ashley? or-
Yes, Counselor Powers, Eric Lambadecchio has his hand raised.
Very echoey, actually.
That's fine, go ahead. There are no other councilors, correct? Ashley? There are no other-
Chairman, may I say, you have,
Go ahead.
Eric Lampadecki,
thanks,
40.
Chairman.
Yes.
Quick question.
Go ahead.
The new equipment line item was reduced completely. Is that something that's going to be a concern to us, public safety wise? I mean, I'm sure you're going to have to manage through it, but is it a concern?
I would say, Counselor, no. I've been working very closely with Mr. Viscay and the mayor, and they've been very helpful about trying to meet all our new equipment needs, hose, personal protective equipment, and whatnot. And a lot of that money was just it's going to work through the capital improvement plan.
Okay.
Rather than that line item in the budget.
Yeah, just like the chief says, Council, we're trying to pull all the capital expenditures out of the operating budget and fund them through the capital improvement plan. So we did have 50,000 for equipment, 50,000 for hoses and nozzles, and then a third amount just for building maintenance. So we funded all of those, but just not in the operating budget.
Great, glad to see.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chief.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Hi, Chief. Chief, thank you. And kudos to you guys. You know how much I love all of you guys.
Thank you.
Piggybacking on Councilor Visconti's question, I know you had alluded to it in your answer, but for personal protective equipment, I noticed, we didn't adopt anything in FY20. There was nothing proposed in 2021. So with regard to the pandemic and everything, how are you guys doing with PPE? Is that coming out of another account or?
Yeah, I'm not trying to confuse matters. The PPE we're addressing, what we just discussed, that line item that's moved into the capital improvement is like our structural firefighting gear, not the personal protective equipment we use, N95 masks and gloves and cleaning supplies for the pandemic type of materials. That's a different element. We're required under NFPA and to have 2 sets of fire gear for each firefighter. We haven't had that in the city, so we're trying to address that deficiency. And, you know, it's taken us a few years, but I think this year we're getting to the point where every firefighter will have their second set of gear. And now we're trying to address shortcomings with washing machine extractors and dryers in all the stations. That'll be our next goal. But the first was to get new structural second set of gear for all firefighters. So when one set of their gear gets, you know, contaminated
Yeah,
at an incident, then they have another gear they can put on. They don't have to put back on their contaminated gear.
that's great. It sounds like we're moving in a positive direction again. Even though it's a tough economic climate, it seems like, you know, things could be a lot worse, and we're doing pretty okay.
We appreciate the work of the mayor and the council, believe me. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
I just have one question for you. You know, given the situation throughout the country now with regard to demonstrations, et cetera, how are we set for decontamination in the firehouses? If somebody has to have their equipment checked out and cleaned.
I missed that last part of that question, John. You were asking what happens if their gear gets contaminated, did you say?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we do have, we got a grant. My staff here got a grant to help pay for a new washer extractor up at Central Fire Station. We have one down at Engine 1 Ladder 1 station, but we have no machine at Engine 5 or Engine 3 station. So those are the ones we want to work on.
Okay.
But we can clean them in-house. Some of our gear, say we had that gasoline tanker, the rollover a while back, about a month ago. Some of that gear had to be retired. When you get certain things that get, gasoline or oil permeates the gear, you might have to throw it away, and then we'll be putting in for remediation on that to get it replaced from the company through their insurance.
Okay. Thank you, Chief. No other councilors? Mr. Lampadecchio, did you want to speak?
I did, thank you. Eric
Go right
Lipidecchio, 43 Tapley Avenue. Chief, I just have a quick question regarding ambulance service in the city, specifically delays in service time. Is that contract with Cataldo, is that something that's overseen by the fire department?
As far as response times?
Correct.
I'm sorry.
Do we have a service level agreement with them?
There is a contract. They are contracted to, I haven't looked at the contract in a while, to tell you the truth, Mr. Lampadecchio, but, I would say, and again, we've been through this with the response times. I think Cataldo Ambulance does an incredible job. Has there been an occasion someone had to wait 10 or 15 or maybe even 20 minutes for an ambulance during the pandemic? I would say yes, it might have happened a couple of times, if that, out of thousands of calls we had. And then I would suggest even going back last summer around the sandcastles, there were even delays that were during the summertime, might have even, been even more so than during the pandemic. I don't really see the response times as being an issue with Cataldo ambulances. They operate in most communities in the greater Boston area. So most of the time, we go 8 deep in medical aids, and they're right there right away a lot of times. But sometimes, it could be a particularly busy point where every community around us might have 8 medical aids going on. We might have to wait for an ambulance. And again, that's why our firefighters respond and our apparatus remain on scene, our EMTs, and we stabilize and we treat the patient until the ambulance can arrive on scene to transport. So I don't know if that answers your question or not.
Yeah, I guess where I'm going with this is, first, I just want to say you guys do a fantastic job responding and being first on scene and helping. It's more about getting you guys the tools you need to be successful in these types of situations. Would the city ever consider pursuing its own internal EMS, like ambulance service?
I would say that's a big undertaking. I don't have any appetite for that right now. I think in the middle of the pandemic is at the absolute wrong time to be looking to anything like that. I would suggest, and I've thought about this, if Revere wanted to have service comparable to like a Cataldo ambulance and run so that, you're not going to have any delays in the city, you'd probably have to hire, 50 firefighters on your ambulances here. I mean, it's really not, I don't think a workable model. I think the model we have now with having the neighborhood fire stations respond, and we're usually there within a couple of minutes. You don't have any delays on the fire and response typically. So, and even if we're out, we have mutual aid coming in from around us. So I think it works quite well as it is, quite frankly. And to go into the EMS business, you can talk to some of the other communities that have done it. It hasn't always worked out as well as they'd hoped.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. On a personal note, I know I've had very good experiences with Cataldo. Phone call, 5 minutes to here, engine 5's here. They do a fantastic job, as does the firefighters. So.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anything, any other councilors want to speak? Any?
Councilor
spectators?
Zambudo has his hand up.
Councilor Zambudo.
Thank you,
Councilor?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just in response to the constituent's question, I agree wholeheartedly with the chief.
Tony, we can't hear you.
Can everybody hear me?
Now.
Okay, so I was responding to the constituents' concerns about taking an ambulance service in-house, and when I was chairman of public safety many years ago, we explored this in depth, and it's not feasible. It's like the chief said, you'd need a tremendous amount of personnel, and it's just not doable. And we have a good model, and I'm one that wants to stick with it. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Council.
Any other councilors? Hearing none. Chief, I want to thank you very much for your attendance here today. As always, you answer all of the questions in a professional and intelligent manner, and you have to be commended for that. And I want to also thank you for the great job you do down there at the Central Fire Station and throughout the city. We're moving in the right direction as far as I'm concerned. Thank you, Chief.
I thank our councilors for all your support, and make sure I pass all the kind words on to our membership. Appreciate it. You guys stay well.
Thank you, Chief.
Take care.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
The next item will be municipal inspections.
Council Powers, I'll take that budget.
You want to take that? That's on 295, section 2, page 95.
So basically, this budget is more or less similar to what's been in the past. We did lose one inspector through some of the reductions in force that we had to have, and otherwise, all the salaries are budgeted as the positions say in their respective unions, and not a very big expense budget at all there. As a matter of fact, we cut $24,000 from that budget, and we offset those expenses to our 40U revolving fund. So brought the expenses down about $28,500. Salaries are down from last year as well. So happy to answer any questions with regard to the municipal inspections.
Oh. Councilors, any councilors out there want to? Ashley, any councilors want to speak?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Visconti and Councilor Zambudo has his hand raised.
Okay. Go ahead.
I'll mute when I can anticipate you're going to talk about.
Is anyone in the living room?
Okay.
You're not on mute.
Hello?
Hello? Mr. Chairman?
Yes, go ahead, sir.
Okay. Rich, if I may, the general counsel is not included in the municipal inspections. Where's that being paid out of?
That will be paid out of that 40U revolving account where we issue the violations for health code, et cetera. So we have a revolving fund, and part of that revolving fund will pay the salary for the council.
Okay, and it looks as though there is a vacant, am I understanding this correctly, that the director of municipal inspections that position's vacant, but that's still in the line item? Is that still budgeted?
That's correct.
Position, is there a appetite to fill that position?
Yes, yeah. The position of municipal inspections, we will certainly want to fill.
Okay, great, thank you.
Any other councilors that would like to speak?
Councilor Visconti and Councilor Keefe has his hand raised.
I spoke, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Councilor Visconti.
No, I just spoke, I'm sorry.
Okay, well, your name's just popped up. Who else?
Mr. Chairman, this is Patrick Keefe. How are you?
Top of the morning to you.
Hey, same to you. Just a couple questions, Mr. Viskey. As you mentioned, so the the general counsel is coming out of a different fund. Is that the permitting fee fund, or is that where my curiosity, what was the intake on permitting fees for the year? Do you know?
I don't have that in front of me. We have revenues through 10 months on permitting. I believe we are at about $2.5 million. I can get you that specific amount, but this 40U account is not permitting. It's more of the health code violations that are levied, and we use that. And part of that's the Safe Housing Task Force and those types of fines that would go into the revolving fund, and we pay the respective costs of that program, including the cost of general counsel.
Okay, now that was going to be my next question is, was it relative to the Safe Housing Task Force? And I was just curious, so out of the $2+ million in permitting fees, where is the majority of that being repurposed?
That's basically general fund revenue. So that's part of the local receipts that we spoke of at the, I think you were absent yesterday, but we did the budget overview, and building permits go into the general fund of the city, the general coffers.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other councilors, any questions for Mr. Viskey?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. Mr. Viskey, you had mentioned that one position in this department had been eliminated, one of the inspectors. Without obviously naming who the inspector was, what was the job function of that inspector? Are we going to be?
He was a sanitary health inspector, and it was per the union, the collective bargaining, it was last in, first out. So the most junior member of the inspectors.
Okay. Is that, are we going to see the impacts of that loss in the city in terms of, workload and whatnot, especially as we enforce recycling and whatnot in the trash ordinances?
Yeah, I imagine losing any inspector would, you'd see some, you'd lose some productivity, but the hope is that by absorption, we can maintain and keep the fines to a minimum. Obviously, our first choice is to have people comply, but I would have to say that certainly with one inspector down, we may not be as efficient as we could be, but we're going to do the best we can. And I believe per the collective bargaining agreement, if the economy comes back and we're able to, we can bring that inspector back.
All right, that's good to hear. Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Visca.
Any other council?
No other councilors, Councilor Powers.
Thank you. I just have one question. I'm looking at the salary schedule for the inspectional services. And I see that one of the sanitary inspectors, as a matter of fact, the salary is considerably less than the other sanitary inspector. Now, was that because it's a part-time position or?
Yeah, we have one inspector that works 20 hours a week, so that would be a 0.51 full-time equivalent. So yeah, that's like a prorated salary for that position.
And we certainly appreciate that. Are there any, no other councilors want to speak? Are you here for any other reasons, Mr. Biscayne?
I'm here for any questions that are needed.
Okay, very good. Now we're going to go to parking control.
Mr.
Section 2, page 100.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I would like to recuse myself from this discussion and this meeting regarding.
I understand that. Yeah, I understand that.
Okay, great.
He already sent me his cuts.
Okay. I'm looking for the budget page.
Is Jim out there?
Section 2, 100.
103,
My schedule says 100, so.
parking control.
Okay, yep.
If Jim Rose isn't on the, oh, I see him. I think he's coming on now. Oh, you might have to invite him on.
Mr. Rose?
Okay, can you hear me now?
I
Hey,
can
Jim.
hear you.
Okay, thank you. All right, I didn't expect to come up so quickly. All right. I'm here.
Okay, I'm going to open this up to any councilors that have questions for the Director of Parking Control in the city. Are there any councilors?
Mr. Chairman?
Sorry, Ricky.
No, go ahead. You're a member of the committee. You go first.
Jim, I'd like to
Yes.
ask you, how much, do you know, like offhand, how much you lost in revenue during the COVID virus?
Oh, offhand, that would be a little hard for me to give you a figure. I know on the meter account on the revenue from ticketing, we're off probably, I would say, normally I had anticipated would take in 217,000 in projected the meter revenue, 217,000. The meter revenue was 168,000. So if you're looking at that, roughly we've lost approximately 30,000, maybe there. And as far as the ticket revenue, we were projecting for 2020 to probably raise 1.5 million, and that's down to 1.1 million. That's an estimate.
Okay, all right, thank you.
So, Mr. Rhodes, if you may, basically, our revenue stream coming in is far exceeds our operating expenses. Is that correct?
Yes, it does.
And by a considerable amount.
It still does.
Yeah, I can see that, yeah.
Yeah, just it's worth noting that you know, with the new meters and technology that we have, aside from the pandemic, which Jim's right, we were off about 60% on our meter collections alone, if not a little more than that. But we're able to pay for 2 full-time parking control officers with the revenues generated for 2020. So we are down 1 PCO. We did have to not fill an open position per the budget here, but we're going to see how that goes. And when the resident stickers and the signage goes up, we may be able to bring that position back, hopefully.
Yeah, and that was one of my questions too. With regard to the signage going up, and I know that's not your job to put the signage up, but as far as getting out the stickers to people and informing them of when the new regulations will fall into place, do we anticipate that happening anytime in the very near future?
Councilor Powers, yes, we are. We're actually probably 5 weeks out. We're pretty much ready to go. We have roughly 29,500 permits that we're sitting on. We're working on getting another 5,000 parcels that we have to identify, which has been quite difficult and time consuming. But, you know, I think early next month, we'll send out a postcard, we'll start working on it, and we'll finally get this to realization that this is something that the council's wanted, we all want, and it'll be coming into effect.
And that's
So-
good news. That's really good news because
Yeah.
that's going to bring in, you know, probably additional revenue on excise taxes if there are people who choose to, you know, leave their car here and register it from their home or their, wherever they're renting or whatever it might be. We'll pick up the excise tax on that. And that's something I believe, you know, we should have been doing right along. But it's difficult in some of the neighborhoods too.
Very difficult.
Yeah, and I know I'm going to be coming before the Traffic Commission at some point, looking for resident parking in certain sections of the city. I'm talking about 24-hour resident parking. So I just want to give you a heads up on that.
I saw it coming, Councilor.
Thank you, sir. Any other councilors?
Councilors Keefe and Zambito have their hand raised.
Councilor Keefe, on the basis of he's the council president.
Thank you, Chairman Powers. Appreciate your time. And Mr. Rose, thank you for being here. I love your department. You do a very nice job. As you know, I know you mentioned the residential parking. So the permits, you said that 29,000 permits were made. You're looking to do about 5,000 more.
Yes.
What about this? What's your estimated timeline on the signage being installed? Because I know that's going to take some time.
The signage is my signage is my biggest concern, okay, because the signage is a huge problem. How do I enforce my stickers without the signage being up throughout the city? All right, street sweeping and both new signage that we're gonna do, which is gonna really have some great curb appeal, but also helps me enforce. So the signage, I think, is something that we're looking into. I had heard just talking to Paula Genzio that we might be looking in the beginning of September. They'll be working on this through most of the summer. And that kind of takes back, but you got to understand this program, the overnight residential parking permit program that we're working on. When you, a program of this magnitude that's basically new to the city, it's going to take some time, okay? And if everything had basically worked out correctly and we didn't have to deal with the COVID-19, I think probably in April, we were well on target to hit our goal besides the signage, because we needed a lot of money appropriated to, and we finally got that through the council and Richard Fiscal to working on that to get us what we needed to make the signs, you know, correctly so that I can enforce them. So the answer is, I will have my permits probably going out within the next 5 weeks, hopefully. And then a lot of people are going to be coming to the parking department and going online, and actually people who didn't get it, which we're trying to follow the parcel, and there's a lot to do. It wasn't an easy process to get these addresses. It wasn't as simple as just looking at the excise taxes and saying, well, you know, we can go by that database, because unfortunately, when you look at a parcel, it says it's a 2-family, but you have 8 different vehicles registered to this piece of property, and this is what's made our job so difficult. So that's it. Oh, Paul, I see you here. Thank you.
Yep, I'm here.
So Mr. Rose, and I totally understand. I know it's something that's a big undertaking. Obviously, I think you can understand. You know, since you've been in the position, this has been something that has been the will of the people and the will of the council for, I mean, since I've been on the council now. And again, I'm not putting this on you, or I'm putting it more on the entire city. We've been talking about this for a number of years. We've been talking about implementing this. It was supposed to be implemented last year. Then it was supposed to be implemented in the spring of this year, early parts. Obviously, now we have another potential delay. So I just want to make sure that it's, we have some urgency, not just from you, of course, because I think that you guys do it, from everyone that's involved, signage, City Hall, Fiscal, you name it, right? Everyone's involved in having some accountability in getting this done. Because if we say maybe September, then you're going to come back and say maybe October, maybe November, and then it's going to be 2021. Well, it's just easier to not get things done in the winter. We know that. So I can't stress enough that we need to get this done much sooner than later.
Councilor Keefe, I might be able to add a little information about that. The signs, we have 2,000 signs being delivered in about 10 days. We had a little bit of a problem with the going out to bid for the installation. We had one bidder. That bidder backed out. Then we had to go through the whole process again. We now have a low bidder, and that process is going through the signing of contracts and what have you. We hope to be out on the street in about 2 to 3 weeks, putting up the signs. And I believe if everything goes right, we should be a lot earlier than September, with our fingers crossed. And the only thing,
promise over deliver, okay?
Okay. And the only thing that, the only problem we have, I know Councilor Powers has just mentioned, we are constantly changing what we're doing as far as streets, the hours of the streets, and it's hard to manage with a constant changing. So now if there's more changes coming, we've ordered the signs, we'll have to order different signs for certain areas. So that's a little bit of our problem, but we are moving forward.
If I can answer to that, and I'll say the city council, obviously they put in a request, I would just ask my fellow councils to discontinue any changes in permit parking or timing, until they can get this fully rolled out. Because like Mr. Argenzio mentioned, if we keep changing it, then they have to remake a sign, then they have to go back in the queue. Then it just gives another reason to hold and wait. Let them get it out, let them do their job. Let's figure if it works, and then we can make the adjustments. I think we all agreed to that a while ago, but the changes keep coming in. So if we can alleviate that, then we'll leave less reasons to not have it done. All right?
Very good, Councilor.
Help? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Rose. Appreciate it. You too, Rich Fiscal.
You're welcome.
Get the money.
All the money's ready. Money's there.
Hello?
Councilor Powers, Councilor Zambuto has his hand raised, and then one resident.
You are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to start off by commending the Director of Parking. We now have a parking system and a parking department that's in the 21st century. I'm proud of it. It was, under a lot of duress. It was at City Hall for a long time, and in the hands of the city clerk without any help. And we've come such a long way that we have a professional department. Anytime I call down there or anybody has anything to do with it, it's all handled on a professional manner, and I'm proud of the department, and I commend you, Mr. Director, because I know how hard you've worked to bring this up to speed, and I just want to thank you.
Thank you, Council. Thank you, Council.
Any other councilors?
My pleasure.
Anyone else wishing to speak?
Eric Lampendecchio has his hand raised.
Eric
Please,
Lampendecchio.
go ahead, sir.
Thank you, sir. Eric Lampendecchio, 43 Tapley Avenue. This might be a question for Mr. Fiscal rather than Mr. Rose. What are the projected additional revenues that we will see from the resident parking program, or that you're expecting to see?
Oof. I don't even have a guess on that, honestly, because it's really going to be about the enforcement. The revenue from, I don't even believe we're charging for the stickers. So that's really a cost to the city. getting the stickers out there. But it's really I'd hate to pin a number on it because I think it'll be very lucrative in the beginning, and then I believe it'll tail down once people get the message that we are enforcing these regulations. But that's a great question. I wish I had a good answer, but it's going to be one of those things where I think we're going to have to make a reasonable estimate and take it from there. I'm not even exactly sure what the ticket fine is. Is it a $15 fine, Jim?
No, Rich, as you know, it would be hard for us to project, but not so much, Rich, is it about the revenue. It's about freeing up the parking spaces that we need, and that the people are registering their vehicles in the city of Revere here. They
Oh,
deserve.
no, I understand that, Jim. He just wanted to know how much revenue we thought we would realize from the sticker program, but
It's
not quite sure.
It's going to be quite an uptick in the revenue, but it would be hard to say at this time. To project something like that, I think would almost be impossible at this time.
I mean, I personally, as a resident, think it's going to be a great program. I understand that the challenges of it. I've worked in municipalities that have had overnight sticker parking, and I think another benefit to that will be to get some of the vehicles registered in the city, which will allow us to realize that excise tax as well. So it's kind of it'll bring revenue in a couple of different ways. Increased excise tax revenue for the cars, and the fines, and then I expect there to be a spike in the money, and then it would kind of calm down. But as the money goes down, the capacity for the parking for the residents would go up. So I'm going to try to take a crack at doing some calculations, though. You got me thinking now.
Sorry to hit you with the
No,
brain
no,
buster.
it's a fair
Thank you.
question. I just,
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
If I can add to that, I see this, I really see this as a quality of life issue, not a revenue issue. It will probably produce quite a bit of revenue in the beginning, but this is about accommodating our citizens. It's about having people have parking spaces that actually live here and register their cars here, and out of town is not taking the spaces away from them. So this is really, to me, a quality of life issue, and whatever revenue comes from it is, I see as a plus, but it's really about the people.
Councilor, I agree with you 100%, and I'll give you the perfect example. I have resident parking in my neighborhood, which is adjacent to the Wonderland Tea Stop. If I didn't have resident parking, I would probably come home for dinner some evening around 5 or 6 o'clock and find no place to park, because we're so close to, people do not want to pay parking fees. So they park in the nearest spot they can with no consideration to the people that live in that neighborhood. And that's basically, as Councilor Zambuto alluded to, what we're looking to do is make the city a better place to live in. And one of the ways we can do that is through the parking program and the enforcement of the parking program. Thank you.
I don't disagree with anything you guys have said. I know it's desperately needed in some areas, especially the Point of Pines right now. But where we're talking about the budget and revenue shortfalls, I thought this might be an optimistic point for the city going forward. Thanks.
Any other questions for anyone? Councilors?
No other councilors? Councilor Powers?
Okay. Let's go into, wait a minute. Let's go into Public Works. Mr. Argenzio?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Before I get started, I'd like to just say a couple of things. I'd like to thank all the members of the Public Works Department and the Water Sewer Division for coming in to work as normal during the COVID crisis. I don't know if all of you know this, but we were hit pretty hard with the COVID in Public Works. We have 3 employees especially that were very seriously hurt, and they were in the hospital for several months on ventilators, dialysis. 2 of those employees are now at home recovering. One is still in the hospital. So I'd like to thank them and thank everybody else and wish them a speedy recovery. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Well said.
Amen.
So I'm ready with, I believe the first thing in order is administrative, or the administration end of it. I'll start with the salaries. So if you look at that, one of the changes you'll notice is Mr. Charamella. His salary is going to be coming out of half out of Public Works and half out of Water and Sewer.
Yeah.
He'll be playing a role in Public Works. We have 2 positions that are being eliminated from that end of it. And we're adding in the infrastructure program manager. I believe Bob O'Brien explained that last night. One of the, or the only engineer up in community development will be moving down into Public Works. If you have any questions on that, I'm happy to answer. The line items in the administrative end were level funded with the exception of office supplies. That was cut by $3,000. We found we had a little surplus of capacity, so we cut that by 3,000.
I think, Mr. Viscay, I have a question. I'm
Sure.
looking at Section 2, page 108, Chief of Infrastructure and Public Works. Who might that be? And I know that.
That's the title for Don Charamella. And he's budgeted, again, 50% from the DPW and 50% from Water and Sewer.
But his primary function will be water and sewer, am I correct?
Well, he will be overseeing the water and sewer as well as with Public Works and city engineer.
Yeah, the reason
So
I
that's-
ask, I don't want to lose him. He does a fantastic job in his present position in water and sewer. And
No,
he's
he's not being lost. It's more of a reorganization that the mayor is implementing to create chiefs or executive staff that to report up to him. So as opposed to having, say, 30 department heads report to the mayor, he's creating a structure where there would be a level of executives that would report up to him. So it's more of a structural change in the budget. So because Donnie's going to be working primarily in the DPW and the water and sewer, we decided that it would be fair to split the salary between the two.
Yeah, well, he does a good job. That's why I asked.
Yep.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Joanne.
can I ask Paula Genzio a question, please?
Certainly.
Paula Genzio,
And then
those 2 positions.
I'll just plug it in with this.
That are getting cut, are those retirements? I'm just asking for my knowledge.
Well, in the Public Works general side, we have 6 positions that are being cut. 2 are retirements.
Yep.
1 is unfilled, and 3 other positions. So the 2 in the administrative side were not retirements, no.
Okay. All right, so you have 6 altogether?
6 altogether, yes. That does not include water and sewer. Don Charamella will speak to that when the water and sewer comes up.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Now, Paul, custodial positions. Those are budgeted out of your department?
Yes, we'll be getting to that. That's under facilities. As we work through this, we'll be coming to the facilities section.
Okay, that's fine. Any questions on that page from anyone?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
through you, Mr. Chairman, Superintendent Argenzio, thank you. Thank you for all the work you and the men and women of your department do in our city every day, especially through this COVID. You guys never missed a beat, that's for sure. And you've been doing great work all this summer. Just a quick question about the 3 other positions. I understand, the retirements, we're not going to fill the retirements. We're not going to fill the vacant opening. But the 3 positions that were cut, What was the nature of those departments? Was it in highway or?
Oh, okay.
In-
Okay, so there's two on the administrative end. One was,
Okay.
one was the storekeeper, and one was the supervisor of payroll.
Okay.
Okay,
All right. So not, we won't be necessarily, they won't be missing on the streets, so to speak.
in the administrative end, no. As we go through, yeah, there will be another one. Yes, in the actual labor force as we move through this, you'll see a couple.
Okay. And with regard to the chief of infrastructure and public works, how much of that salary last fiscal year? Because I'm obviously, this is my first budget cycle.
Okay.
Where did any of that salary come from public works last year, or is this new to?
No.
Is that 75,000 new to the public works line item?
Well, I believe it was taken for, some of it was taken from water and sewer, but last year, water and sewer absorbed that salary.
Okay, so that's a new salary from the DPW line item.
Yes.
Okay, I'm a little bummed. I love Mr. Charamella and he does great too, but the fact that we're making cuts, to men on boots on the ground, and then taking 75 grand and putting it, toward a raise of a salary because of a restructuring. I'm a little, but.
Counselor, if I may, just to be
Yeah.
clear, we, Don Charamella's salary in 2020 was 100% in the water and sewer, and it was around 124,000 or so. So it's not entirely 75,000. It's just the delta between. So it's probably like a $26,000, but just the apportionment, we split 50-50. So it's really not a $75,000 raise per se. Just wanted to make sure that was clear.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Sure.
Any other questions from any councilors? We can go to page 109 now, in section 2.
I believe, just so we're looking at the same thing, is this the snow and ice?
I'm looking here. I don't know, this is office equipment,
110.
hardware.
John, 110.
Well, we didn't do we didn't complete 109, that's why.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so the line items in the administration side, automotive maintenance, office supplies, equipment and supplies, and computer operations, 3 were level funded, and the office supply account was cut by 3,000. We had a little surplus in that, so that shouldn't affect too much adversely.
Okay, so yeah, these are cuts.
The 3,000 is a cut, yes,
Okay.
in office supplies. Mhm.
Now let's go to page 110.
Okay.
Snow removal overtime, 100,000.
Okay, this snow and ice account is level funded, the same as last year. So that's overtime for the public works crews. Private contractors is the next line, level funded at 200,000. And then we have some computer operations. That's our GPS tracking devices for our contractors. And some maintenance of equipment to repair our plows and sanders. And the materials account to cover salt. As you know, this account, you never really know how much to budget. This is the only account that I think you can deficit spend. So we,
I believe street lighting too, you can deficit spend if I'm not mistaken.
it's possible. So this is what we use as a base, and we take it from there, but it is level funded from last year.
I can see that. Now, let me ask you a question while you're here.
Sure.
I know we've come into the practice recently of pre-salting, particularly hills and high areas.
Yes.
We're still doing that.
Yes, we do that if conditions warrant. We certainly do that. And it's been fairly effective for us.
I saw that. Yeah, that's why I asked the question.
Yes, no, it works out well, depending on what we expect for snow. If it's rain turning to snow, we don't, because if you
Yeah.
put the salt out too early, the rain just washes it away. So, but we do pre-salt, and it's worked out effectively for us.
Now we're going to the Highway Division.
Okay,
Okay, and I can see that is,
the Highway Division, as far as the salary structure goes, we had one retire from that division. That's not going to be filled at this point. So other than that, these salaries just reflect the 2% increase that was due all employees, and that was negotiated.
yep,
As far as the line items go, street signs, we cut that by 8,000. This does not include any of the signage for the overnight parking or the street sweeping. And this council appropriated some money a couple months ago to change over all our street signs to blue ADA compliant signs.
yep.
So with that appropriation, we were able to cut 8,000 out of this account.
Okay. Where are we now, by the way, with that program?
I would say we're about 40% complete, and we hope to get that done by the fall. We're doing that with our own staff.
Yep,
So they have a lot of other duties besides doing that, but
no, I understand.
we should be able to accomplish that, hopefully by September 1st. Contracted painting services, that's the line striping, crosswalks.
Yep,
Contracted pothole and trench repair. We do a lot of this work ourselves, but sometimes, we get a little bit behind, and we're able to rely on this line item to hire some contractors.
yeah. Where are we now? I know in the past we've had problems with the hot box with
No,
regard.
we purchased a new one a couple of years back, and we
The other one, though, the one we originally had, is that still usable?
we have it in a pinch. If the other one's being serviced, we bring that back out.
Okay,
The street sweeping, there's an increase in that. That was due to the council's request that we extend street sweeping to December 31st. So we will be doing that.
Right.
And the new signs that we put up will reflect that. So we'll be going to December 31st, weather permitting.
and that's
Point of information, please.
Well, mhm.
go ahead.
Paul, is that, do we contract out for the street sweeping, or is
Yes.
that in-house?
No, we contract that out.
Okay, would it be cheaper to get a street sweeper? And is there only one that does the whole city? Or is there multiple?
We've talked about that for years, and over the 40 years that I've been here, it's we've contracted it out, done it ourselves. It's gone back and forth. We might be able to save some money. A new sweeper goes about $240,000. The advantage of the street sweeping contract is if the machine that he's using breaks down, he's
Right.
obligated to have a second machine within 20 minutes. So he has that backup. We start at 5 o'clock in the morning. In order to do that, we'd have to either pay overtime or negotiate with the union to start employees a little bit earlier. But that's something we're definitely going to be looking into. We're in the second year of a 3-year contract at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Oh,
Well, I don't know if you remember, when I first got elected, we didn't have a street sweeping program. And
That's right.
one of the motions I put in, and if you remember, at that time there, we were sharing a street sweeper with the city of Chelsea,
That's right.
which wasn't working too well for us. So
No.
I think the program is working very well. And again, that's in concert with the parking department, with the meter maids out there. Works great.
It does. And we do have a sweeper of our own that we go out on Thursdays and do the Shirley Ave area.
Yeah.
And we go out.
July 4th or something like that.
Yes, and we do sweep our own streets with our own sweeper. We're cutting grass along the streets. We use that to clean up after water breaks. So we do have an older sweeper in the capital plan that was submitted. We're hoping, if the borrowing gets a little bit better, we will be purchasing a new sweeper maybe next year, hopefully,
Oh.
if permissible. The traffic signalization, that's for our traffic signals around the city. Obviously, materials is things we use on a day-to-day basis. And the new equipment, that's for small equipment if we have to buy like a lawnmower or something like that, or a compressor or a generator.
Okay, and that's, okay. Paul, speaking of lawnmowers, when you get a chance, can you speak with the landscaper regarding Butler Circle? There seems to be always a water problem there, and it takes away from a part of that circle on the edge when you're going by there.
Okay,
I appreciate if you could do that.
I'll certainly do that, Counselor.
Okay, now our next one is parks and open space. We have 3 positions, supervisor, a foreman, and a craftsman.
Right. That's down a position. We had a retirement in that division, and
That's Mr. Sposino?
yes, that was Richard Sposino.
Okay, yeah,
So he retired, and that position is now out of the budget.
okay.
As far as the line items, we have spraying and planting. This is flower planting, tree planting, fertilizing of different parks, and we also have holiday decorations in there. So we buy the flags and
Tree removal.
oh, that's the next line. The spraying and planting, we were able to cut $4,850 out of that. And I think we should be able to survive that. Tree removal, that's the trimming and removal by the contractor. We cut that by 25,000, but a few months ago, the administration sent a request to the council, and you approved it for some supplementary money for that. So we were able to cut this by 25,000 because of that appropriation. Field maintenance, this covers all our contracted landscapers for most of our athletic fields and City Hall, Legion, Butler Circle, for instance. Also the maintenance of our turf fields. The turf field at the high school is going to have to be replaced pretty soon, just to let everybody know. I know they're waiting for the high school to see where that's going to go, but
Exactly, no.
we're holding off on that. And
Councilor Powers.
Pardon me? Yes.
Councilor Powers, through you to Mr. Argenzio, just while you're on there, noticing the increase in the field maintenance and landscaping contracts, et cetera. What was the, I mean, there's obviously an increase, and I know it's minimal, but one of the curiosities is what's the increase for mainly? And then whose main responsibility is it for oversight on the landscaping, the outside contractors to oversee that this is happening the way that we are they're contractually.
The public works, myself, and it was Mr. Sposito, who's retired, and that's going to go to the supervisor of that department. The increase relates to, I think, both turf fields, the stadium, and the older turf field at the high school. It needs some, especially the turf field at the high school needs quite a bit of work to get it to the level that you can safely play on it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Moving on, we just have some tools and equipment. We were able to make a slight cut. Police details, we use that for if we work on the street or the tree company needs some assistance. We had a little bit of a surplus in that account this year, so we were able to cut it by $5,000. I don't think we'll have any adverse effects from that. Capital maintenance and repair, that's for playground repairs, repairs to sprinkler systems, lighting at the parks, things of that nature, the HVAC system at the stadium, electrical and plumbing at our stadium. We were able to cut, again, we were able to cut that a little bit because in the spring, excuse me, a couple of months back, the council appropriated some money for playground repairs, so we're able to cut this a little bit. Right?
Paul,
Yes,
Public Works Facilities and Public Property.
yes, that's next.
Oh, yeah, I know, yeah.
Okay.
That's, Section 2, page 115.
Okay. So we have one position being eliminated. That's the municipal building supervisor. Robert Rotundo retired several months ago, then not filling that position. Then this is the custodial staff, takes care of our municipal buildings. That's the salaries you see there.
Don't we have a couple of custodians out sick now, or?
Well, yes, in the employees that I were talking about that were seriously ill, two of those employees appear on this page. Their jobs are not being eliminated, but we'll have to wait till they're able to return to work.
Okay. And those are the ones at City Hall, am I correct?
That's correct. We take care of City Hall, ISD,
The Legion.
Library, Senior Center, and Parks and Recreation.
Okay.
All right.
Now, the next page is Section 2116.
That's the line items for facilities.
Yep.
Okay. The first line item is street lighting. Those are our street lights. We see a $68,000 cut there. We're hoping, well, not hoping, we're anticipating a pretty good savings from all the LED lights that were recently installed. I believe that program is 98 to 100% complete.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, yes, Mr.
I'm sorry, Mr. Argenzio, quick question while we're on the street lighting line item. Do you happen to know when they'll be coming back to adjust the brightness of the lights? I know we were told in the spring, late spring, early summer. I'm still getting calls from constituents who are saying the lights are too bright, the lights are too dim, and
Right.
just a question of when we might expect that.
Sure. We've been in touch with Dan Cameron. The thought on this, and it was his suggestion that we do the whole city, because a lot of times when a change happens, people react to it very quickly, but then people get used to it. So his suggestion was go through the whole city, get it done. We faxed over the lists of complaints, whether they're too bright, too dim, and we have assurances from him that over the next 30 days, they'll be working on those and tweaking the different complaints.
Mr. Chairman,
Thank you. That's great to hear.
Mr. Chairman, John,
Yes, go ahead, sir. Go
thank
ahead.
you. Paul, who, if we have more complaints, who do we send that over to?
Oh, you can call 311. They're
311?
actively keeping a list.
Okay,
After they get, a few, they fax them right over to, and send them right over to, well, not fax, but email them over to Dan
Yeah.
Camp.
okay, thank you.
Now, Paul, let me ask you a question with regard to the lighting. Are there 3 different wattages that they can put in those lights? I think one
Yes.
is 25 or 50 or 98, am I correct?
That's pretty good there, John. It's yes, it's 25, it's like a 48, a 90, and then on some of the main drags, it's over 100.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
So
Now,
yes,
in the parks, like, let's say, Neponset Street or Oak Island, I know we have security lighting in those parks. Are they maintaining that lighting also?
some are maintained by National Grid, some are privately owned by us. Well, not privately owned, but owned by the city and our own electrician. If there's a problem, we'll go out and repair those.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Any other questions on the lights? Okay,
The
okay,
next item is the heating in public buildings.
yep, that's mainly the gas bill for the different buildings. We cut that by 15,000. We had a little extra money there. Public building lights, that's the electricity for all the municipal buildings.
Yep.
Gasoline and oil, obviously for our vehicles. Building maintenance and repairs, that's for the repairs to City Hall, ISD, library. We have a little cut there. We have the money from the tornado that we've been using to kind of do over some repairs at City Hall and what have you. So
Yeah.
we were able to make a cut there because we're relying on that money. Maintenance of equipment, have that's level funded. Contracted services. This line item relates to Roker and the inmates. That's what you see, the 90,000 cut. Those two programs are still up in the air. They've been cut. I believe these were cut, so we didn't have to suffer any more cuts in the public works personnel.
Now, am I correct in assuming that those monies are for supervision of the inmates? Or is that something?
No, that was actually paying for both programs, Roka and the inmate program.
Oh, coming in and cleaning the offices, et cetera, in City Hall?
Yeah. Roka did that. The inmates worked outside.
Okay.
Those programs, some people think that those programs are free. They're not. They're an expense to the city.
Yeah, no question.
So for now, those are cut.
And, okay, now what on the DPW, the rental of the trailers,
Yes.
it's the $41,000.
Yes, that's the two trailers we have down the city yard to make it safe for the employees. We moved out of the building. That's to lease those two trailers, and they're actually on the land of the gymnasium that's next to us, so that we use that money to lease the land and lease the trailers.
Okay.
And the next one, I think, is I know is the equipment lease for our copiers and we have storage.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
sorry, on the rentals and leases line item, just, can we get a quick update? I know Mr. Viscay is here as well. Will we be seeing, will there be a groundbreaking in FY21 for a new DPW facility? Is that anticipated?
Well, we have an OPM on board. We have a meeting tomorrow, as a matter of fact. We're in negotiations with an architect. That should be finalized tomorrow. The design phase will be about 8 months. We hope to, while the building is being designed, we hope to, in the fall or early winter, tear down the existing building and start working on the soils and what have you. The actual the groundbreaking, if we do it at demolition, would be this fall. The actual ribbon cutting is probably a little ways away. Probably looking at the end of 2022.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Any questions?
No other counselors have their hand raised, Counselor Powers.
Okay. Rental equipment on lease, what is that?
It's copiers. We have some storage space that we rent from a local storage company. We're starting to move our stuff out. So that's all. That's basically what that is.
Okay, now, page 117, section 2. Something that jumped right out at me. COVID cleaning. I don't see any requests from appropriation in there.
Yes, that money used to come out of the general side. That is in the water and sewer, and Don Charmel can speak speak to that when he comes in to discuss water and sewer. But that used to be in general, it was taken out and put over into water and sewer.
Probably where it should be.
Right, correct.
Janitorial supplies.
Yeah.
Those
Paper
are
towels, toilet papers, soap.
soap, mops, brooms,
Yeah, that's all that stuff.
everything else. Okay. Well, that's about it. Let me see. That's about it for Public Works. But I
Yes.
can-
Counselor Powers, Don Chermella has joined the meeting.
Yes, Dawn is going to explain the water and sewer. And then after that, I believe we're going to come back to the solid waste enterprise fund and I'll
Yeah.
speak.
Okay. I don't, what page, where is the water and sewer? What page are we on, Ash?
I don't have a copy of the budget, Counselor Powers.
Oh, okay, because I just went to, I turned the page and I wound up in public health.
It's IV2, Mr. Chairman,
I-
4-2. Section 4, page 3.
Section 4, page 3. Okay. Mr. Chirmella,
Hi, everybody. Hi, councilors.
how are you?
Oh, you done?
Okay.
Well, thank you.
We're gonna go to the, page 4, section 8. This is the salary account. And, Mr. Biscay, that $75,000, that's the $75,000 we were talking about earlier, correct?
Yes, sir, Counselor. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Okay, so I understand that. Now, there's an assistant superintendent,
Joe Maglione.
okay, and class 4 distribution operator, that's,
Matthew Martelli.
okay. Okay. I see 3 positions here for principal clerk. Are those 3 people actually working in that department, or are they?
Yes, they are. It's Deb Penta,
Yeah,
Christine Machula, and Karen Dusevich.
okay, so they're working right downstairs in the hall in the water department.
That's correct. They're working in the meter office.
Okay. Okay, I don't see anything out of line here. Let's go back to, let's see. Let's go back to page 3. Salary and wages we just talked about. This is the enterprise fund, okay? Sewer assessments. This is from the MWRA, am I correct?
That's correct.
11,244,000, and water assessments, 5,608,000, for a total of the debt service and expenses and salary, 25,586. Okay. And revenue from the water and sewer rate is 27,841, correct? That includes health insurance, Medicaid. This is all stuff that years ago was part of the city budget, and it's all into the enterprise fund now. Pensions, Medicare, shared employees, shared facilities, etc. Okay. Tony, while while you're here, I want to compliment you on the great job you're doing on the Eastern County ditch.
Thank you.
And also the bridge that you constructed for the Bay Road residents down there. I know several of them have commented they're very happy with that.
Thank you.
Councilors have questions for Donnie with regard to his department.
Councilor Visconti has his hand raised.
Councilor Visconti.
Hey, Dawn.
Hi.
Muted.
Counselor.
How are you? Thanks for being here. I just have a few questions, if you don't mind. I noticed on the salary section of your budget, part-time salaries were added approximately about $40,000, 39,000 compared to where it wasn't in the budget. Can you give me some clarity or give us some clarity on that, if you don't mind?
I believe the part-time budget was it senior, Rich?
Hi there, sorry. Yeah, we have tried to spread out some of the part-time work that we have traditionally been using the Parks Department's summer work program. And a lot of times those kids work in municipal jobs. So we try to spread that out and put some part-time money in the operations of water and sewer. So we have some flexibility for bringing on some summer help there. I believe there's also one part-time employee working down in the water and sewer department.
That's correct, part-time.
And I would like to stay consistent. I want to first congratulate you, obviously, on your promotion. And I'm wondering if that's congratulations is in order with the level of responsibility that's probably put on your shoulders. So, I just would like to acknowledge that the raise is just coming at a bad time, and not saying that it's not well deserved. It's just we're right now going through some financial concerns with the city, and I think it's like I said, not that it's not deserved. It's just the fact that it's bad timing. That's all.
No, I have a lot of responsibility.
And that, yes.
And, no, I think that we've made some advances in our department.
Excuse me?
I think we've made some advances in our department. I think I've brought the department forward a little bit.
If there's one thing I know, you definitely have the confidence of the mayor as well as the city council. That goes without saying. And I'm looking at it from a numbers standpoint. That's really what I'm looking at it.
I just as a reminder, the council could certainly cut budgets. They can't cut individual salaries. So if there's a cut to be contemplated, it'd probably be best just to talk about it as a whole of the department, not individuals. But that's just I try to keep the names out of the budget so it doesn't get too personal and political. But just to remind everybody that if cuts are proposed, it doesn't necessarily mean that somebody is going to get less of a salary. It just means that the budget of that department is cut as a whole.
Okay.
Thank you, Richard, for your insight.
I'm not sure that's accurate. With all due respect to my friend, the Director of Finance, I'm not sure that's accurate.
Okay, we can talk offline, but
We will. Okay, thank you.
I just have one comment to make with regard to the water and sewer department, the functioning of it. And I believe there's an old saying, you get what you pay for. And I for one, Counselor, have been very happy with the operation of the water and sewer department. They've gone out of their way to correct problems throughout the area I represent, which is probably the most heavily prone area for flooding, and they've always been there 100%. So I want to publicly thank them this evening for the director and his crew of men. Thank you. Okay, any other councilman? Pardon me?
Mr. Chairman, Miss McKenna.
Joanne, go
Yeah,
ahead.
thank you.
Council.
Donnie, I just want to say thank you for everything that you've done for Ward 1. You've been wonderful. I think you're one of the best hires that the city has made. You're very hardworking, and so is in your crew. You know, every time I call you, you answer. I have a problem, you're there. So I just want to say thank you for everything.
Oh, you're welcome, Councilor McKenna. I appreciate that, though. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, go ahead, sir.
I'd just like to echo Councilor McKenna's sentiments. Thank you, Don, for everything you've been doing for Ward 6. And like Councilor McKenna said, whenever I call, whenever there's an issue, you're there. What you did on Asti Ave for Mr. Falzone, I know he's eternally grateful. I know, you do great work, especially in Ward 6. So thank you.
Yeah. Wait till you see what we found in Geneva. Found even bigger.
Oh, boy.
Oh, yeah. Good stuff. All good stuff.
Chairman Powers.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I used the raise hand function. Just wanted to make sure everyone saw that. I just have I guess I have a lot of questions, and I just wanted to kind of go down the list. And Mr. Viscay, I'm not sure if you're still on. I hope I'm not.
I'm here.
Hope I'm not skipping ahead. This is some creative budgeting. This is I just have a question. Why there's a lot of line items that stick out to me. You know, we have a request for 500,000 catch basin line lateral cleaning, and it's reduced down to 200,000, which I'm grateful to not spend that. I'm just gonna hold on. I'll throw them all out there. Why was the pest control rodent control reduced $80,000? Why is the and I'm okay, but I just want to make sure we don't have flare-up issues in the past. Why were contracted services $500,000 asked for and then removed? So there's a lot of those out there. So why would we throw these random numbers out there more than last year? And then just
I can take each one individually. The you, the council, was generous enough to support a purchase of a new piece of equipment, Vector truck, that allows us to do a lot of that contracted service now in-house. So we were able to reduce that budget significantly and do that work in-house. Some of the other work in the city, we have an I&I account, which is an account that is designed for inflow and infiltration of cities' water sewer system. So that has been growing with some of the development. So we're shifting those costs now to use those funds to address some of those issues. So we're able to back those out of an appropriation in the water and sewer account. In the rodent control, I don't want to jinx it, but we did a lot of damage in getting those rodents. I don't know where we sent them, but we don't have nearly as many calls as we've had. So we've reduced that budget. We still have open purchase orders for contracts. So there's still money available if things come up. We're not eliminating the program. But again, with the tough times and trying to keep everybody employed to the best of our ability, we really had to take a good hard look at all these lines and try to find ways to use some off-ledger accounts and some other means to keep it going. But it's a combination of efforts there, whether it's in-house with new equipment that allows us to do stuff, or some of the fees that we receive from I&I on the new development project. So yeah, it's we try not to leave any stone unturned here to try to keep this lean.
Well, I understand. It kind of just stands out to me when the 2020 budget was 17,895,000, and then we threw out an arbitrary number of 19,521 as a requested budget. That to me it just makes me wonder. That's 10%. a 10% increase of budgeting. I know that you came back with only a, you know, a 4% increase maybe. But why would we throw out a 10% arbitrary number of increase in fund and spend? Why would anyone want to do that?
Well, I'm sorry, I'm missing the question there.
So 2020 expenses were 17,895,000. The requested spend for 2021 was 19,521,000. Don't you think that sounds like a lot? Like if you, as the you know, city funding person, why would you be? I mean, doesn't that sound like a lot? If someone said, "Here, I want to spend 10% more."
Well, I mean, I don't know. Everyone has a philosophy on how they run the budget. I try to ask all the departments for their full wish complement list. So call it a wish list, call it whatever you want, and that's the starting point. So we don't want to just say, "Hey, level fund," and we don't care about, you know, the projects you'd like to see happen or some of the advancements you'd like to have. So we take the requests in as they come. So some departments shoot for the moon, and some stay, you know, within reason. So we don't discourage anyone from asking, but then it's our process to go through them all and try to find ways to you know, either do what they ask or fund what they're asking, or find alternative ways to do so, or sometimes we just have to say no. So it's really just you know, I guess Donnie asked for a lot of money and he wants to do a lot of stuff, and we try to give him what he needs, but sometimes we got to rail it in and make sure that we're you know, we're pretty diplomatic about how we spend across the city. So that would be the answer.
All right, thank you.
Any other councilors?
Councilor Zambito has his hand raised.
Councilor Zambudo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I only have a minute. Unfortunately, I have a conflict. I'm on a conference call here, but I didn't want to let it go. I've told Donnie privately how much I think of his service and how much I appreciate all he does. He's a true professional, and I just wanted to be on the record to say that publicly. So I do have to get back to my conference call. So thanks.
Like everybody's expressed the same thing. I'd like when you people to call that somebody answers the phone. There's nothing more frustrating than when the phone call goes to a voicemail, or just, somebody doesn't answer. So I try to respond immediately, because, I know you councils have tough positions, tough jobs, and you're getting a lot of slack from the constituents. So I don't need to add to your stress.
I just want to say one thing, if I can, in regard to this conversation that we just had. The city of Revere is an old city, and it was even older prior to 1915. And there are a lot of flaws in our infrastructure. Undersized pipes, old pipes, deteriorated, et cetera, et cetera. And I know, knowing Donnie, I know that in seeing his work, I know that if he sees something, he wants to fix it. He wants to correct it. And that could very well be the answer to that extra 10% that he was looking for. Wants to get things done, wants to get things fixed, wants to bring the city up to speed. And there's nothing wrong with that. I want to.
You're frozen, John.
There to complete a budget. Every councilor, I would hope, has been looking over the budget, and if they see any recommendations they want to make, although I think they'll be few and far between, then the time to present those will be on the 22nd at our next regular meeting. Thank you for everyone for your attendance, and good evening. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, before we adjourn, could I just ask Mr. Viscay a general question, if I might?
Yeah, you go right ahead. That's what we're here for.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, Mr. Viscay, I was absent for most of yesterday's meeting because of work, but I did watch from the beginning last night's hearing. And I don't know if this is possible, but I know you discussed, a new so-called cabinet within the administration, and there'll be people filling those roles throughout the various departments. And as we go through the budget and look through, I know you said we can't look at salaries individually, so to speak, but I think it would be very helpful to this council if we're going to switch this, to a different style of leadership and go to this model of a cabinet, which I think is great that he's going to be delegating tasks down. That's a great style of leadership. However, given the economic climate that we're in and the cuts that in positions across the board that we've had, it's a little disheartening that a lot of raises are going on at City Hall. And like I said, I know we can't cut, we can't go after salaries, so to speak. But if you could provide kind of a memo on this so-called cabinet with the positions of those cabinet members, so we can look at as we deliberate the budget, if you could do that and get it to us before Monday, so we can have it for Monday night, I would appreciate that.
Yeah, sure.
Mr. Chairman.
Oh, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, if I can just add to that, since Council Sereno mentioned that, what would be really helpful to us, Mr. Viscay, is if we can get, I know you provided us a breakdown of the salaries of their base salaries. Correct me if I'm wrong. But what that doesn't have is any of the stipends, and it's making it quite difficult for counselors to look at salaries and see exactly what the raises are, because I believe some of those raises consist of some stipends that have been added in. So before making, at least a decision, I'd like some documentation, if possible, to see what the difference was from last year to this year in salaries, throughout the city.
Yeah, I understand. I'll take Councilor Sereno's first, and then I'll answer yours, Councilor. I did send out last night, Councilor Sereno, some supplemental documents on email, and one part was an organizational structure that actually has the org chart in all of those, at least the structure of organization in there. So that may help you understand it better. And also the narrative portion of the 5-year financial forecast is my attempt to explain what the new org chart and org structure looks like and how it affects the 21 budget in the 5-year forecast. So check those out and let me know if that helps you. And then certainly give me a call or an email if you have any questions. Happy to answer those. Councilor Visconti, and I know Councilor McKenna and now Councilor Sereno have all asked for some side-by-side comparisons. So as some of these departments were talking about their budget and I shut off my video and muted, I have been working on that spreadsheet that you're asking for. So I'm trying to get that completed. And right now it's designed, you got to understand a lot of this is linked. So I have to kind of recreate something that you're looking for. And what I've done is I've got it all fixed from base salary to base salary. I'll try to add some columns in to get some a better, I guess, apples to apples for what you're looking for. But I'll have that spreadsheet for you before Monday for sure.
You can include me in that also, Richard, please.
I'll include all 11 of you in there, but I'm creating it now, so hopefully that will help. I think I'll have something by tomorrow on this, so just keep your eyes open on your email, and I'll get this out to you. And then again, if you read it and there's something else that you have any further questions, just let me know. And like I said from yesterday's intro, this is no sorcery here. We try our best to give a very clean and accurate budget, but always looking to hear on what we could do to make it better. So happy to help out.
I don't think there's any question that we know you're trying to do exactly the right thing. But there's some of us that have some concerns about some of the raises at this time. And
Oh, yeah, I understand. And
and,
like I said, I'll put this together, and then if there's any questions or that come of it, then definitely reach out. No issues.
and I think we need to have a private conversation after this call.
Richard, can I ask you a question, please?
Of course you could.
Thank you very much. Could you also include the retirees and the cuts that, the layoffs that were, would be in this list too, please? I would just like to know how many people got cut, how many people retired. I don't have that information. Is
Okay,
there somewhere
sure.
I can find it?
You found the right place. We'll put that together for you.
Okay, thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Any other councilors wanting to speak? Any other councilors have questions? If not, this will conclude the,
Mr. Chairman?
yes,
We didn't go over the solid waste enterprise fund. That was the last item on the agenda.
I don't see that on my,
It's in part 4 of the enterprise, the second
okay,
enterprise.
that's why I missed it. Okay. What page are on part 4? Okay, I got it.
I'd say it's page 13 where it starts with the narratives, and then everything behind that is the data.
Way at the end.
4-13 is the first page of solid waste.
I see it. That's why that's why we missed it. Page 14. Okay, it is. It's actually the money portion of it is on page 50. But, you know, I heard comments earlier about there was a problem brought up with, you know, rodents, et cetera. And I think the great decline that we've had with regard to that situation is staring us right on the face. If you go to page 14, section 5, the new trash carts. I think they've done a tremendous service to the company, to the city. I know I haven't had any problems, and I know my neighbors I've spoken to haven't had any problems. So I think that was money well spent. Now we'll go to page 15. Okay, solid waste recycling enterprise fund. Paul, are you here?
Yes, I'm here, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, let's take direct cost appropriated in the enterprise fund.
Okay, so the enterprise, we have, the first sheet I have is the salary structure. The solid waste enterprise fund includes what we refer to as the sanitation department down the city ad. That shows 5 employees. There was one cut from this group. So we have 5 employees there. So that's pretty much the salary page there. They do, obviously it does reflect the 2% increase. If you want to know about revenues and things, Richard Viscay could probably speak more about that.
Yeah, I certainly do. Yeah.
As far as the line items, rubbish removal, that's our current contractor is Capital Waste. It reflects, I believe, a 2% increase, which is customary from year to year. You see a big increase in our recycling disposal account. As everyone knows, that has gone way out of hand. But the bright spot is we did get another, he gave us another grant. And on June 28th or 9th, the last Monday in the June, we will be going back out for another 18 weeks of enforcement to approximately 25-30% of the different routes, trying to educate the people as much as we can. We'll also be doing more signage, banners, ads in the paper, billboards, direct mailings to people's homes, trying to get people to recycle correctly. The grant also includes an audit of the areas we did last year. So we'll be going back to a random amount of addresses from last year to see if people have learned what they should be doing for recycling. So we're hoping that when we go back to those homes, they're continuing to recycle appropriately. Rubbish disposal, that's the money that goes to a weed grader. We're hoping to dump less trash with trash carts and limiting the trash to just via carts. So we're hoping the 150,000 decrease there. We're hoping that we are disposing of less trash at Wheelabrator. The computer services, the software that tracks the carts, and some other little recycling things we have online for people to participate in to hopefully get them to recycle correctly. Pest and rodent control on this end. This was used more for education, mailings, door knockers. Money on the water sewer side was money directed right to paying for the exterminators. We have a few bucks appropriated there for some continued mailings. Capital outlay, we leased to own the barrels. I believe this is the second year of a 3-year lease. So that money we're obligated to. And the new equipment is for the purchase of additional recycling barrels and additional trash carts, as people are allowed to purchase those if they'd like. So that is for the purchase of those pieces of equipment.
Paul, you know what jumps out at me right here? Recycling disposal. The council in 2020 approved $300,000. Now we're looking for 580, and the mayor approved 550.
Yes.
What was the why the large increase of $280,000?
Unfortunately, the recycling companies, because of contamination and because of the market flatlining, we went from paying $70, $80 a ton to $110 a ton, and we're currently at $150 a ton.
Really?
Yes, twice the amount of money that we're paying to dispose of trash.
Initially, weren't we supposed to be getting some type of a credit or?
As far as maybe 3-4 years ago, it was a wash. We were getting it disposed of free. Prior to that, we were even getting some money for the newspaper. So it went from getting a little money to a wash where it wasn't costing us anything to now we're in a position of paying an extraordinary amount of money to recycle.
I can see that. I can see that.
A little disheartening because I mean that was supposed to be.
Yeah, it was supposed to be the save-all. That was supposed to be the save-all.
Yeah, it was.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Through you to Superintendent Argenzio. Question on the trash barrel lease. You said that this is the second year of the 3-year.
Yes.
So did we as a city lease to own them instead of, paying upfront at the, at the onset of the program?
Yeah, just to spread, the cost was close to $1 million. So to spread that out over 3 fiscal years.
Oh, that's good. So next year that will be dissolved.
We have one more year this year, the 22 budget, and then that will disappear.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
This is the second year of the 3-year lease.
Understood. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Paul, how about yard waste?
Yard waste is incorporated in the rubbish removal for capital waste to pick it up, and the rubbish disposal to dump it at Wheelabrator. Wheelabrator does not incinerate that. That is a relatively low cost. I think we're paying about $5 a ton to get rid of that.
What do
So
they
that
do?
is not a
Store
big-
it over there? They just,
They have like a landfill over there.
yeah,
They compost it.
Yeah,
Okay.
yes. They have a composting facility there that does not get incinerated.
okay, okay. So that results in a little bit of a savings, I guess.
Well, yes, or it's negligible to dispose of it.
Yeah.
Just a
Okay.
service for the, for the
Any
residents.
counselors have any other questions?
Yeah.
Councilors Keefe and Councilor Zambuto have their hand raised.
Councilor Keefe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate this one here and realizing, do you think that the recycling disposal will be enough? Considering it's more than doubled, or do you think that that's, because it looks like the mayor's request was $30,000 less than you proposed. Do you think that there'll be enough? And if there's if there's an overage, Mr. Viskey, how will that be accounted for?
It's always hard to say how much is going to be enough. My hope that it's been since I've started here is that we could enforce a little stronger on the requirements of recycling, and I know that comes with a lot of grief, especially probably for counselors who would get calls. I mean, to push barrels back that are contaminated and have the owner kind of resort his recycling is a tough ask, but I think it would be an effective tool. Fining would also be unfortunate, but also an effective tool. So I think it's really the will of how strong we want to try to enforce. We've received grants the last 2 years, and we police and we educate and we have signs on boards and we have mailers and postcards and such. But quite frankly, I don't feel like it's enough. I don't feel like people are recycling properly. I think the single stream recycling was a fad that has passed us by, and I don't have any great answers there. But I think the more we educate and the more we try to enforce it, I believe people will start to hopefully come around and we can bring that cost down. But it's a difficult. I think a lot of people just use those barrels as trash barrels if they walk by with a styrofoam cup or one of those litter that we get every week with the flies in it that people just throw in their recycle bin that you can't recycle because it has a trash bag around it. I don't know how to most effectively combat that. I know Paul has been out there diligently with some help with the grant money, and we're going to be at it again. But I think it'll take the whole city to try to help us teach people and hopefully bring those costs down by education. And at some point we might have to do some enforcement as well.
Rich?
Yes.
Hi, I just wanted to say that, excuse me, I'm sorry, what?
That's okay.
Thank you.
Dawn, I was next in the queue.
Oh, I'm sorry. I know John's having a hard time seeing the hands, so that's why I just.
Go ahead, no
But
problem.
anyways, I was just wondering if ward community meetings would help. Ward 1 community meetings, having, people, residents from Ward 1 come and have a community meeting and address the proper way to recycle. I was wondering about that. I know my ward would definitely come. They would definitely attend if it was something that they wanted to learn, so, I mean, that's just an idea.
Yep, Counselor, it's a great idea, but you're going to find that the people that take the time to come to a community meeting do things properly.
Right.
Ones that aren't showing up.
That's true.
Absolutely right.
Yeah, I think we have a trash app. There's a little game on there that the children or adults can play that kind of teach you about the right ways to recycle and what goes where. And I think maybe education with the elementary school kids might be helpful with them almost policing their family and their brothers and sisters on what goes in and what doesn't go in. But you know, I wish I had an easy answer. But I think enforcement will help. But again, we're trying our best not to, you know, put any more financial burden on our residents here with all the stuff that's going on. But we're losing the battle right now.
Mr. Chairman,
Councilor Zambudo.
thank you. You know, I'm old enough to remember when we used to bring the recycling to a facility before we had curbside recycling. It was a wonderful thing. The community was really involved, and we were so good at it. We were the first to go to curbside recycling, and you know, we had incentives to recycle at curbside, and you know, once we brought on the big units to hold the recycling, and unfortunately now it's to such a point that it could cause a pay to throw. You know, we're spending twice as much on recycling as we are as tipping fees to dump the trash, to burn the trash. It's almost, we're almost to a point where it's better off burning the trash because we're burning the recycling, because we're not winning here. So I know it's, you know, it's about education, and our only hope is the kids, because it's pretty hard to teach us old timers new tricks. So I don't know the answer to this, but it's a big part of education, but it's also unfortunately going to have to be enforcement, and to a point where we're not going to be able to afford recycling in the city. And so people have to realize if they don't do it correctly, it's going to cost them either in the tax bill or somewhere. So it's going to have to be tough love. I'm sorry to say, because we cannot sustain this. It's been getting you know, unbelievably bad and worse every year. And we keep talking about, you know, that China's not taking the recycling anymore. We used to make a profit off of recycling. Now it's more than trash, and it's a scary thing. So
just to give a little insight, when we decided that we were going to create an enterprise fund for solid waste and recycling, it was partially to make everybody aware of the cost of doing that business. So there's certainly opportunities there to try to save money or raise revenues. You know, nobody wants to talk about a trash fee, but a lot of cities and towns have done it. And I'm certainly not talking about a trash fee here. But the fact of the matter is that collecting and disposing of trash is something that's not required by law. It's not like having public schools or public safety. It's a service that we provide for free to our residents, and that free service is costing almost $5 million a year. So whatever we can do to try to, you know, full cost recovery like water and sewer would be ideal. I mean, I don't think that's ever going to happen, but we certainly got to look at the way we administer our solid waste and our recycling. And, you know, if there's ways to either enforce stronger to have those fines offset the additional costs for those dirty loads, or if we can, you know, renegotiate contracts or do some things to lower the cost of that, then, you know, we would have extra dollars to avoid layoffs or to, you know, propose new initiatives. So it's really just meant to try to let everybody know that trash is a big business, and, you know, getting the barrels a couple of years ago, that helped with the rodents, but it also was trying to limit the amount of trash people can throw out, because prior to those barrels, you'd see, you know, 4, 5, 6, 7 barrels in front of some houses. And, you know, I don't know if we started enforcing that either. I know trash bags on the ground are something we're enforcing, but there's still a lot of 2nd, 3rd, and 4th barrels being put out there as well. So I'm not saying I have the answers, but I just want to let you guys know that the strategy is to try to either reduce the costs or increase some revenue so we can limit the amount of money that the municipality spends on solid waste and recycling.
I agree. And Paul, I guess if I can ask you, Is it a particular area that there's more contaminated waste from, or can we tell that? Is there a way to?
Well, when we do
that?
when we do the audit and we do with the grant, we know information street by street, house from house by house. And that information Ruben can generate for you. It seems pretty consistent across the city, though, unfortunately, that,
Yeah, it's just.
People using those recycle barrels just as extra trash barrels. And
Yeah, I think we gotta educate, and I think we especially have to educate the newcomers to the city. That's, if I was a betting man, I would bet that's where our biggest problem is coming from. And to no fault of their own, they're just not educated. So we have to do some outreach in those departments, I think. Because again, it's not.
When we do the audit, hopefully when we do the audit and we look at what we did last year, hopefully we'll see that people are still doing what they're supposed to be doing.
I never thought we'd find recycling to be a problem.
I know.
We thought we were going to save the planet, and instead we're going to put us all in bankruptcy.
Right.
Thanks.
Does anyone else have any questions?
Councilor Powers, there's no other councilors with their hands raised.
Okay, then that will conclude the meeting of June 16th, 2020. And tomorrow evening will be our final meeting. And I would just like to add that if any councilors who have attended this meeting, previous meetings or the meeting tomorrow, have any recommendations for cuts, then they'll be allowed to present them at the meeting on next Monday evening. So with that, thank you all for your attendance. Thank you, Mr. Viskey. Thank you, all the department heads, and we'll see you tomorrow, hopefully. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.